Alright guys, I have not made this video yet. I have talked about like bits and pieces of my conversion story, but I haven't done obviously I haven't done a full-blown this is my conversion story video. So here we go. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Dear God, please let this small work bless even one person for the greater glory of your kingdom, amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Okay, I'm a little bit nervous for this video, which I don't know why, because I don't know. I guess it's a very personal thing to talk about, even though I have a Catholic YouTube channel and whatever else, and I talk about how I'm a convert all the time. Like, I guess it just feels very personal. I grew up Protestant, and specifically non-denominational Christian. So, you know, we don't believe in religion. We believe in relationship. That's what I used to say all the time. So before that, I actually don't remember going to church regularly until about 7 or 8. I know my mom and my dad were Christians, still are, but I don't remember a time where they would take us to church while they were still married. My parents divorced when I was like 7 or 8, and then after they got divorced, my mom started taking us to church more regularly, and we started attending. It's like a big mega church down here now, so I'm not going to say the name, but when I started attending this church, it was in a high school auditorium, and now it's like blown up and it's got multi-campuses and a ton of people attend this church. Like, so many people in the area attend this church. But when we started attending it 20 something years ago, it was a very small church that 60 people maybe attended. We went there, and I went there even until we watched it grow from high school auditorium, and then it got its own campus, and then it got a new campus after that, and then that campus became the main campus, and then there was like branches. It branched out after that, and there's several campuses. I think at least 4. There's at least 4 campuses now. My mom would always, and my stepdad, when they married, they always gave me and my sisters a really good example of not gonna cry during this video. So my mom and my stepdad always gave us really good examples of attending church every Sunday, volunteering at church, being of service. They were always involved in groups, like small groups, that's what they're called. They were always involved in small groups. My mom made a bunch of friends through church. My mom and my stepdad made a bunch of friends through church. And that is where I got a lot of my faith formation, was just going through church, going to Sunday school, attending church camps. They were all, non-denominational church camps, but I feel like I had a very strong faith and understanding and relationship with Jesus growing up. I never doubted that there was a God or that there was a Jesus. I mean, I had some things happen to me in my childhood where I probably became like angry, but I never doubted that they were real or anything like that. And so that was like my home church growing up. And then every other weekend we would go with my dad and my stepmom, and they kind of church hopped around more than, like, once my mom and my stepdad found, our church, that was our church. Like, that was the church that we went to. But my dad and my stepmom would kind of church hop around more, and they went to a lot of Pentecostal churches. So I have a little bit of experience with Pentecostal churches, feeling very strange, because my church, my home church, was church, it's hard to like do this without names, but it was very come as you are, like jeans, t-shirt, come as you are type church. And then we would go to my dad's house on the weekends, like every other weekend, and it was Pentecostal church, and they wore Sunday best, and we would still be wearing jeans and a t-shirt, so it was very awkward, especially when I had that bad moment where I cut all my hair off in junior high. It was very short. Every other weekend we would go to Pentecostal church, but I identified as non-denominational Christian. I don't even think I knew the word Protestant until me and my husband started dating. And even then I hated that word because I was like, I'm not a Protestant, I'm a Christian. You know, like that's probably what I would say. I was like, I'm a Christian. I don't believe in religion. I just need a relationship. I don't need a priest. I just need Jesus. Like I had the same arguments that most Protestants have. I don't need a priest. I don't need to pray to the saints. Why do you worship Mary? Why is Jesus on a cross? I've talked about that in my videos, but we were literally taught that Jesus shouldn't be on a cross anymore because he is risen and he is alive. Yes, he is. But without Jesus on the cross, we don't have a religion at all. So I met my husband when I was 16. We were both working at the same place. Eventually, I would start attending Mass with him, and then he would go to church with me also. And I did not understand Mass. Like, I know some people go to Mass and they have like this aha moment, and it's like I get it. I did not have that. And I attended Mass for years. To me, it was like a lot of movement, a lot of standing. I did not understand why I couldn't take the Eucharist, because I could take communion at my church and we called it communion. Didn't understand that either. Like, I didn't understand why it was called the Eucharist. There was a lot that I couldn't understand, and like, so me and my husband, me and Elvis would talk about this back and forth all the time, and it was mostly just me disagreeing with him and arguing and using those same arguments. And I would always say, show me where that is in the Bible. Show me where that is in the Bible. Always. I would always say, show me where that is in the Bible. As we were dating, and we were switching back and forth between his church and my church, and we got engaged. And I always knew, like, in my heart, I did not want to be switching churches back and forth throughout a marriage. And then especially after we had kids, I just wanted to go to just one church. And in my head, and this is after we're engaged, in my head, it's my church, my non-denominational church that I attend, that I've been going to since I was 8. Like, that's the church we're gonna go to. And we talked about it. We would talk about it. I was like, I know we're doing this back and forth thing right now, and it's okay right now because we don't have any kids and we're just engaged. But when we get married, I really just want to attend one church. And that's what my thought process was. Like, we're gonna attend my church, and I would love when he would go to church with me and that's another thing that non-denominational pastors do. They always gotta like stick it to the Catholics. Like, I have never heard a Catholic priest talk bad about another Christian religion. Never. But I swear, every so often, there would be like the pastor would say, so-and-so was telling me a story, and he grew up Catholic. Like that was like explained everything. Like, oh yeah, he grew up Catholic, that's why he was a bad Christian or something, before he came to this church. And so, like, just stuff like that we would all hear all the time. Like, oh yeah, he used to be Catholic, but now he's not anymore. He found Jesus. Anyways, even when me and my husband went to go to the priest, because we had already set up our reception. We had a date picked out for our reception, and you know how most reception places do, nowadays you can have your wedding there and your reception there. And so that was my plan. My plan was to have our wedding at the reception site, and that was what we were gonna do. And my husband was like, well, I want to at least go talk to a priest. Like this is not set in stone that we're getting married at this place where we're having our reception. Like, the reception is set in stone, but the ceremony there is not set in stone. He's like, I want to at least go talk to my priest. And I was like, okay, like, knowing in my head, like, I'm never going to agree to this. And and so we go and talk to the priest, and I remember Elvis is talking to the priest like it's a done deal, and like, we're getting married at the church on that day. And whatever else. And I'm sitting there like looking at him like, no, we're not. And we even left, and I was like, what? Like, that didn't go as planned. Like, that wasn't supposed to happen. And I realized that, like, afterwards, because we agreed to get married at the Catholic Church, and we agreed to go to the pre-marriage counseling that is required through the church. And I came to a realization. I was like, marriage is about compromise. This is just somewhere we're gonna have to compromise. It doesn't mean I have to raise my kids Catholic, but it did, right? Like, because when you get married in the Catholic Church, you promise to at least. So when we were getting married, Elvis was Catholic, and I'm a baptized non-Catholic Christian. So our marriage was valid for him. It was a valid marriage for me too, because we were married in the Catholic Church, and the person who I married was Catholic, even though I wasn't Catholic yet at the time we got married. I was like, okay, I have to compromise. Like, we can get married in the Catholic Church. And the more like it just was dawning on me that getting married in the Catholic Church also meant I have to raise my kids Catholic, because Elvis has raised his kids Catholic, even though Elvis told me all the time, he was like, you do not have to be Catholic for me. Like, I do not want to pressure you into becoming Catholic. He was like, but getting married in the Catholic Church is important for me. That is something that I want to do. He was like, but you don't have to become Catholic. And so he made it very clear that I did not have to become Catholic for him. So, and I had no intentions for the longest time of becoming Catholic. I mean, we were like, because like I said, we were 16. I was 16 when we met, and we didn't get married or engaged until after we graduated college. So we were dating for a lot of years, and I didn't even think about becoming Catholic until after we got engaged. So like, even while we were engaged, after we agreed to go to the Catholic Church to get married, we were still doing our back and forth mass and my church service every other Sunday, which now I realize was mortal sin for him to even do that. So we continued to do that even after I knew I was going to become Catholic, till like the week or two before we got married, maybe. And then I like went to church there, but I also volunteered there at my old church, and so I had to like, you know, get my ducks in a row before I could just jump ship. We got engaged in March. We did a lot of like wedding planning stuff over the summer because I was in grad school at the time. We did a lot of wedding planning stuff over the summer and finalized the ceremony location at the Catholic Church over the summer. And we started attending our marriage prep class around like September, October, November, around there. And it was called Unitas. And it was really cool because we had like sponsor couples who had been married for a while who were like knew about the marriage game and stuff to guide us through, give us pointers, tips and tricks on marriage. That was really cool. Our sponsor couple was awesome. I love them. And I don't know, like, even having attended mass for years, I hadn't actually really talked to any Catholics outside of like my husband. I mean, when I was in high school, I would like question Catholics all the time, right? But I wasn't thinking about even discerning coming Catholic or anything like that until like I was in Unitas, and I was like, these things that they're saying sound like Christian things, like, you know, like, and I knew that Catholics were Christian. Like, I don't think, but I wasn't one of those people who are like, Catholics aren't even Christian. Like, I wasn't one of those people. Like, I knew Catholics were Christian. I just knew we had some fundamental differences that couldn't be crossed over. I couldn't like reconcile these differences to make the jump to become Catholic. When I started attending Unitas, you know, I realized, you know, they really love Jesus. They really love God. Like, maybe there's something here. Like, maybe there's something here for me. Like, I started thinking about it more, and I remember like talking to Elvis about it, and like, well, if I became Catholic. And he was like, I mean, that would be cool. That's like the thing he says. He was like, I mean, that would be cool. Like, but he didn't want to like push me or like influence my decision in any way. I remember thinking like, there's still things that I cannot get over. Like Rosary and the Hail Marys freak me out, and the saints freak me out, and infant baptism freaks me out. Like all of those things, like were big deterrents for me. I remember thinking like, if I can just find biblical proof that these things are okay, like I would have no more issues. I would convert immediately. And I remember I went to go visit my mom, because my mom lived in Virginia at the time and I'm in Texas. And I went to go visit my mom and I talked to her about it. And I was, I'm thinking about maybe becoming Catholic. I haven't really decided, but I'm considering it, basically. And she was like, well, it's your decision, but I'm really just worried about your future children, because your children will be Catholic then. So she was worried about like me raising my kids Catholic. And I was like, well, I mean, we can't keep going back and forth between our churches for the rest of our lives. Like that, like, what is that going to do to them? That would just confuse them. So she was basically worried that I would be brainwashing our future children with like false Catholic teachings. And she made the same arguments that I make, the same arguments that all Protestants make. And I didn't know the answers because I wasn't catechized at all. On the way home from visiting my mom, like on the plane, I was like, I need to find these answers or I cannot become Catholic. Like I can't within my heart, like in my mind, become Catholic and still disagree with Catholic teachings, right? Like I can't do that. So I was like Googling something like Bible verses that back up Catholicism, or Catholicism of the Bible, something like that. And I came across Scott Hahn, who is a convert. And first time I'd ever heard of Scott Hahn. I know he's huge in Catholicism. This was the first time I'd seen his name. And he had a book, and I have it on my Kindle. I wish I had a hard copy, but I had it on my Kindle because I was flying. And the book was called Signs of Life, 40 Catholic Customs and Their Biblical Roots. And I downloaded it immediately because it said biblical roots. And so I downloaded it immediately and I started reading it. And it was just like everything that I had questions for was just laid out for me. Like everything was there. And basically on the plane ride home, I was like becoming Catholic. I'm not saying like it didn't take me a while to like undo some of these misconceptions that I had, because even though like I was able to see a lot of my misunderstandings through Scott Hahn's book, I like, well, what if he's wrong? And I would like Google more things, and like everything just pointed to Catholicism being true. And I mean, I was also undoing like 24 and a half years of Protestant teaching, and just like undoing all the misconceptions and jumping over my hurdles, and then just finally having to understand that I'm not necessarily going to understand everything. That's why they're called mysteries, right? I think what ultimately convinced me to convert, and I think this is true for a lot of Catholics, and this is what keeps well catechized Catholics in the church, regardless of scandals or anything else that happen, just realizing that Jesus, who I'd loved my whole life, was truly present in the Eucharist. I think once I realized that, like, I could not be you can't be anything else. Like, if you love Jesus, like, there's a story online that like floats around. I don't know if it's a true story or not, but there's like a story about a bishop talking to a Christian who's not Catholic, and the Christian, they're talking, and the Christian says, do you really believe that Jesus exists in this bread and wine? Like, you really believe that? And the bishop's like, yeah, don't you? And he's like, no. He was like, but if I did, I would crawl over broken glass to receive him daily. Like, how true is that? Like, once I realized that what the Eucharist was, that he was Jesus, who I loved like all of my life, Like, can't leave ever. We ended Unitas. I entered RCIA like 2 months later in December, and we got married in March of the next year, and then I got confirmed in April. And my husband got confirmed in May. So I always think that's so funny because I was a confirmed Catholic before my husband. My husband was Catholic, obviously, his whole life. He was a cradle Catholic, but I just like that I was confirmed first. I remember I went to church after I had converted and after I was, confirmed. I went to go visit my mom, and I went to church with her because, I want to still be respectful. I still went to mass too, but, she was like, hey, you want to go to church? So I went, and then I think later that day I still went to mass. They were doing communion, and I walked out. And I was like, nope. I was like, I'll come to your church service, but I'm not doing this. It was like, if you have never seen Protestant communion the way that I've done it growing up, it's literally like a tinfoil cup with like a tinfoil on top of the cup where the wafer is. You peel back the foil and the wafer is there, and then you peel back another foil, and then there's like grape juice. That's what communion is. I remember going to my church with, I had invited Elvis, because, every time he was going to come to my church, he was going to hear something and realize that Catholicism was wrong. But I remember we did communion at my church one time, and I was like, see, we do communion like once every couple months, like not all the time. But I was like, see, we do communion too. And he was like, yeah, too bad it's not blessed. And I remember being so irritated that he said that. I was like, oh, that's so rude. Like, now that I think about it, it's like that's so true. I will also say that Protestant churches do way better job at fellowship than Catholic churches. They just do. I mean, they just do fellowship better. But in defense of Catholicism, Mass is not about us and how we feel, because our whole body and attention should be focused on Jesus. It's not for us. It's about Jesus. A lot of Protestant services are made to make you feel good, basically. It's like 30 minutes of worship, music, and then 20 minutes of a sermon. And it's about what we get out of it. And that is not what Mass is about. Mass is not what we get out of it. It's about worshiping Jesus, not about how we feel or what we get out of it. It's my conversion story. I was kind of nervous to film it. Hopefully it comes out okay. This is probably my last video for a while, because by the time this video comes out, school will be full-blown school will be happening. I remember I talked about in the beginning of the summer taking breaks throughout the year, so this is my break. I'll probably be back end of September, beginning of October. Follow me on Instagram and you'll know more about when I'll be coming back. Thank you for sitting through this video. I hope you have a great day. Pray for me and I will pray for you guys. Bye.